Hey guys, and welcome back to another Roblox video. Today we're diving into one of the most interesting towers in Roblox Tower Heroes, Wafer. Wafer can be unlocked through beating Toy Takeover on hard mode, so it's only available during the Christmas event. But the question is Wafer actually as good as everyone says? In this video, we're going to break down his stats, abilities, and even compare him to another popular tower, Scientist, to see if he's really worth the hype. Let's get started. First up, let's take a look at Wafer stats. At level 1, Wafer costs 200 mana and deals a low 1 to 3 damage with a range of 3.8. As you level him up, he gets much stronger, with his final form at level 5 costing 6000 mana, dealing 48 to 70 damage, and having a range of 18. Wafer's attack rate is pretty solid too. His attack speed starts at 1.7 seconds per hit at level 1. But by level 5, he's hitting every 1 second, making him pretty fast for a ranged tower. Plus, his high placement limit of 7 gives you more flexibility on large maps. Now let's talk about Wafer's pros and cons. On the positive side, his range is amazing. At max level, he can hit enemies from a really long distance, which is great for large maps, and Balloon Pal only makes this larger. His high placement limit of 7 means you can have multiple Wafers on the field at once for some serious coverage. Another huge plus is his ability to guarantee high damage with Spectre, meaning his damage output is pretty consistent, even with his ranged attacks. His fast attack rate at levels 2 through 5 also help him deal damage quickly. On the flip side, Wafer's biggest drawback is that level 1 is pretty weak. His damage and range aren't enough to do much early on, so he's definitely not a great pick for early game. Also, his damage output can be a little inconsistent because of his fluid damage range, which means that at times, his damage won't be as reliable. My opinion on this is that if you already have strong early game, such as Metaiki or Dumpster Child, then this won't be a problem. And as for his inconsistent damage, if you're playing a map that is already RNG as it is, RNG meaning it's kind of up to chance, then I would not suggest Wafer. That's just me personally. Now speaking of inconsistencies, Wafer's melee attack is pretty weak. Even at max level, it only deals 22 extra damage and has a very short range of 4. This means you can't really rely on his melee attacks in critical situations. Now that we've looked at Wafer, let's compare him to another commonly used tower, Scientist. At first glance, Scientist has some major strengths, alright? Her level 5 DPS can reach up to 63.39, which is higher than Wafer's max of 58. But there's more to this story here, so let's break it down. Scientist's damage is spread across burst attacks, so she deals 14 damage per burst with 24 bursts in total. While that adds up to a high DPS, it means her damage is delayed and she has to wait for cooldowns in between attacks. Wafer, on the other hand, deals damage consistently. His faster attack rate of 1 second per hit means you can rely on him to hit multiple enemies in a short amount of time. This makes him more reliable, especially against fast enemies or single target situations. Let's stack up the stats and compare them directly. Both Wafer and Scientist have solid range at max level. Wafer at 18 and Scientist at 16.5. Wafer has a slight edge in range, which can make a difference in covering large areas. Wafer has a higher placement limit of 7, which gives you more flexibility on large maps. On the other hand, Scientist is limited to only 5 placements. This can be a disadvantage on larger maps where you need more coverage. In terms of overall power, Wafer can hold his own, but Scientist might be better at handling large crowds of enemies, especially once she reaches level 4 or 5. Her burst attacks can help clear out multiple enemies at once, though they come with a cooldown, which means she might struggle against fast waves. Scientist does need careful timing and positioning because of her cooldowns, while Wafer's consistent attack rate allows him to keep dealing damage non-stop. So is Wafer really as good as people say? The answer depends on how you use him. Wafer shines as a reliable and consistent damage dealer with a high placement limit and excellent range. While his max DPS isn't the best, his steady attack rate and flexibility make him a solid choice for many strategies, especially when paired with Spectre or Balloon Pal. Compared to Scientist, Wafer trades burst power for reliability. Scientists' high DPS and burst attacks are great for crowd control, but her limited placements and cooldowns make her harder to use effectively in certain situations. Ultimately, Wafer might not have the flashiest stats, but his versatility and consistency prove that he deserves a spot in your lineup. What do you think? Is Wafer underrated, or does he fall short compared to other towers? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!